Welcome to another episode of the Your Winning Podcast. I'm your host, Donald for SHO Martin. This is a podcast, as you know, that we introduce you to positive people who are doing positive things on a positive platform. Today's guest, I have one of my homeboys in the industry as far as artistry and the things that he does. We go back, 5 years? 5 years. I mean, with this young man, when he got started, he was doing open mics. And I got a lot to talk about when it comes to talking about him. But instead of me, your host, telling you all the good things that he does, he knows the big words, I don't. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to our special guest today, YADIN KOL.
Peace everybody. So my name is YADIN KOL and I'm a performing and recording artist who is a guitarist, singer, and songwriter. I'm also a teaching artist, offers guitar method and theory lessons, and I'm a yoga teacher as well.
So let's get to this, man. I want to start off with, it's kind of an honor, first of all, for you being on the podcast and Your Winning. And I reached out to you because I follow you and everything, and I will never forget when we was on the greenhouse effect, and you was young, you still young, but you was very raw. And when you come to the open mic, and man, I see you where you was at, you growing and you was moving and you was coming up with songs. Cause you know, me personally, I don't know too many people that can play and sing at the same time, right, unless you're in church or something. But you came, and then not only that, you know, to be real, I'm thinking, man, he probably another rapper or something like that. You want to do some rapping, you know, because everybody wants to be a rapper. Right. But you came up there with your guitar, and you began to sing songs. You were singing all types of songs where spiritual was songs where it wasn't quote unquote popular for young men like you, right, to sing. So let's start with there. Like, what made you start? Because you just gave us what you do and how to do. What made you get started in unpopular? Because everybody wants to be a rapper.
Right.
What made you do that?
So I started playing guitar in about 2013. I had gotten introduced to some different types of music, and a lot of the music was written by and composed by really great guitar players. And over time, I just started to kind of hone in on having a personal interest in playing the guitar. So eventually, I picked it up and started playing and learning on my own. And that was about 2 years before I moved to Indianapolis, which was in 2015, and you and I met in 2016.
So where you from?
Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
My mother's family is from Michigan City, Indiana, so I was in Indiana.
Okay.
And so I moved here in 2015, shortly after graduating from college, and I have been playing the guitar for about 2 years, just dabbling, mostly self-taught. And by the time I moved here, I really wasn't even identifying as an artist at that time, but I did have a strong desire to get out and start connecting with other artists and musicians and things like that. And that's how I found the open mic scene eventually. I went to a few different open mics before I found the greenhouse effect, where we were hosting it. And by that time, I had just come to really inject some of my own experiences into my artistry. I never really planned to sing at first. I was just going to be playing the guitar. But when I went to open mics, I started to see that people really, the artists that really resonated with me had something to say. You know, even if it wasn't an original song, it was a cover or something that really made you feel something and connect with them in that moment. So I had this idea, like maybe I should start singing, you know, like maybe I should start figuring out what I have to say, whether it's original music or covers or whatever the case may be. And so when I started to figure out what songs I actually wanted to express, I just realized that I have a wide variety of interests. I would consider myself a retro-leaning sort of R&B, neo-soul type of artist, which means that I reach back.
Okay.
So the first type of music that I fell in love with was the blues. And a lot of my influences were old bluesmen like Muddy Waters and Buddy Guy, even going up to like Jimi Hendrix and things like that. And these cats were so skillful, you know, in their craft of being guitarists. I was just, you know, enamored by what I saw, and I wanted to kind of imitate that and be able to do those things myself. So it started out with blues and soul music. That's like 60s, 70s, 80s music. And after I got through my blues, I would get into like some Martin Gaye type stuff, what's going on. Some Otis Redding sitting on the dock of the bay, some Ray Charles. I've Got a Woman, Nighttime is. I just found that music just really spoke to my soul. Not that the more contemporary music did it, but you know, I was a younger, man reaching back and representing these songs to people, and I just found that people really felt that when I did that.
How old are you?
So I'm 31 years old this year, just turned 31.
And so 2013 is when you started picking up, you say, you started picking up the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you said you self-taught?
Yep, self-taught guitar player.
So how did that come about? Like, when people think of self-taught, like, what did you do to be self-taught?
Right.
Does that make sense?
So the first thing I did was I bought a book, actually, a Guitar for Dummies. The
yellow book.
Right, believe it or not, it was really helpful in just giving me a foundation, at least to be able to start to unlock the possibilities and understand it. So I read the book, understood the basic foundations for scales and chords and things like that. And then I just started looking up YouTube videos and figured out how to put chords together into chord progression so I could start, creating music and start singing and creating songs and things like that. So it was a process, that ultimately led to that.
So you're looking at YouTube. So at this point, we're talking about 8 years ago, basically.
Yes.
8 years ago, 31. So now you're like 23, 24, give and take, around that. So you do that. So when you do that, that's not popular music, man.
Yeah, right.
I mean, 21, you started in Atlanta, right? Like, that's where you started doing
yeah.
it. So, I mean, Atlanta's like a hotbed for all these artists and, the Amigo, you're talking about down there, all you hear is hip hop. And then you got this guy that's 23 years old, and it's like, and then you playing guitar, but you ain't even thinking about what's popular. So it had to be a passion.
No, it was. No, and for me, art and music, I've learned this over time. Art and music is all about truthful, creative expression. It's about expressing yourself in the most truthful and the most creative way possible and connecting with yourself and other people in the process. So, and for me, I also feel that being an artist is kind of like a practice in self-discovery. You figure out, well, what do you resonate with? What do you really want to say? And I definitely went through the phase of trying to figure out what do I need to do in order to become more popular, to become more visible, to get more gigs and things like that. And over time, I saw that I got the most resonance, I got the most opportunities to connect with people when I was just being myself. And so over time, I figured out like, wow, some of this old school music really speaks to my soul, but on a soul level, so I'm not gonna limit myself in not performing. But I am born and raised in Atlanta. I grew up on hip hop music and trap music. And so I found a way to be able to express myself through those avenues, through my guitar playing as well. And so I'm an artist who really just doesn't seek to limit themselves. And I have a lot of different influences that I just try to make sure that whatever it is I'm expressing is authentic and it's true.
So you said being yourself. I mean, we have a lot of people that a lot of people do say, I'm gonna be myself, but then you find out a lot of people just follow the trend.
Right.
Whatever art you in, you kind of follow the trend. Like me being a comedian, you'll find when I'm on the road, I find a lot of people that take on the Kevin Hart kind of style, you know what I mean? Because they want, even though they say they're different, but you can hear a lot of Kevin Hart or whoever the major comedian. So then even when you go places, I would think, because I do clean comedy, and I do clean comedy in bars, strip clubs, I'm just playing, not yet, but anyway, but I do clean comedy, church, whatever. I used to at first have a fear because even when I would try to do something else, and like that ain't me. No, I'm for sure, this is somebody different. Was it scary for you, like when you had to perform, where you could probably had 3 trap songs before you? Did they say, YADIN KOL, they see you with a...
Yeah, in the beginning it was. I'm coming to my own now. I have a certain degree of appreciation for what I do and what I bring to the table. But in the beginning it definitely was. I would venture to say most artists these days in this sort of setting are hip hop artists. And obviously hip hop can be very diverse, but more mainstream hip hop, more trap music type stuff is what we're hearing these days. So it is a lot of pressure to imitate that and to feel like you need to do that in order to basically connect with people and have people really feel your music. But over time, I started to see, like I said earlier, when I was just being myself, people really connected with me. They didn't care that the other three cats before me, were hip hop artists, whether they were good or bad. They cared that I shared something that was authentic that they could connect with, and it didn't matter about what anybody else thought in the room. And after that happens enough time, you start to see that people are seeing something in you that you don't even see in yourself. So what's the point of this spirit that I'm carrying if these people really, really enjoy and appreciate my artistry, and it's whatever, however it may be presented, this is me and these people love it. So maybe I should love myself a little bit more. Maybe I should do away with the spirit that's preventing me from, expressing my truth.
Because I admire you for that, because black people are very critical.
Yeah.
I'm just being real, being in the industry, being in art, very, very critical. And for you to say, I actually gave them something, not necessarily different, but I gave them another piece. Because sometimes we try to differentiate ourselves from I'm different, but sometimes it's not that you're necessarily different. You just add on to something that they already have.
Right.
So you then too, we talk about the Midwest, like guitar playing more southern, more. But you talk about the Midwest, well, I believe a lot of times we don't have like a major corporation here. Like, most people believe that most people don't come from Atlanta to Indiana.
Yeah.
Most people go from Indiana to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So you be real, you actually, most people, you going this way, they're going that way, because they like everybody feel if it's Atlanta, if it's LA, or if it's now Houston, they feel like in order for me to really make it, I gotta get out of here.
Exactly.
And you did the opposite.
Right.
And now when you're doing the opposite, you did it young. Some people don't figure out what they resonate with until they 40 or 50. I'm 45 years old. I can really say at probably 42, I just figured out like really what I want to do and what I want to say and how I want to do this and do that.
Right.
But at 20, we're talking about 23, 24, then you come out of all that, then you start doing a cover. So explain, because everybody don't know what cover means. When you say do a cover, what is it?
Right, so a cover is when you essentially perform someone else's music. And you represent that music that lyrically is still someone else's property, but you're just sharing it in your own way. So that's essentially what a cover is. So
that's what a cover is. So then you write.
Right.
So you name some of the people that who inspire you. Like, these are songs that your mom, my mom, grandma, and grandpa, and all these people you grew up on, but you bring it to all generations.
Yeah.
Then you decide, after doing the covers, I'm going to write my own music. Take me to the process. Like, people always say, how can you write you get up performing? And like, man, how did you come up with that?
Right.
Like, I go through a process of my own. Take us through the process of writing music.
Right. So I got to the point after performing covers for a while where I became inspired to write my own music. And when an artist decides that they're going to write something, they have to figure out what it is they want to say. And at that time, I just felt very, very strongly about what I had experienced over the course of my life as a Black man, as a person of color, as an individual who is a part of the community of color here in the United States. And I wanted to find some way to give voice to that and to express how I felt about my experiences and how I felt about my people as well. And that manifested into my first original song, which is called True Love. And I released that in 2018, so I'm coming up on the 3rd anniversary of that. And my process in writing music is actually still developing. But at that time, that was one of the rare experiences where an artist just kind of has the words pouring out because they feel so strongly about, whatever it is that they seek to say in that moment. I had started experimenting with different chord progressions as well, learning covers and then breaking down the chord progression and then sort of like putting it in my own sequence. So chord progressions can be given like a numerical order, like a 1, 3, 4, 5 chord progression or something. So long story short, I would change it up and say, well, what does a 4, 5, 2, 1 sound like, you know? And then I would figure out, all right, well, maybe I can write to this chord progression. So that's kind of how True Love came about. I learned a song called We All Try by Frank Ocean, just for performance purposes. And I broke the chords down and put it into my own order. And ended up really liking what came out. And I changed some other things like how I was playing it. And once I got a solid chord structure, I just started writing the lyrics. I think I named it afterwards, but the lyrics were just pouring out of me. I stayed up for about maybe 48 hours straight until I finished it. And to be honest, that's never happened to me. I've never wrote another song that quickly before, but at that time it was just something that resonated with me, so it came out that way.
So I gotta go back to this. You started with the guitar for dummies.
Right.
Yeah. Learning whatever the basic fundamentals what you need to learn.
Right.
And then we move from that, then you're looking at YouTube. Now you're telling me you're breaking down music.
Right.
And so you didn't go to college for that?
Nope, I didn't go to school for music. I wasn't trained in any sort of professional or academic setting at all. But I think that's something that helped me is that I was really passionate about it, so I would play every day, especially before I was an artist and before I was performing. I was just interested in unlocking this instrument's possibilities, and the Guitar for Dummies book kind of gave me a little peek into like what I could potentially do. So I would just play every day. And the YouTube thing didn't start out with just me looking up tutorial videos. It actually started out with me looking up other artists who were guitarists who were doing cover songs and stuff. And long story short, some of these videos, like the way they were able to represent these popular songs just blew my mind. It was like better than the original song, and they would be like such beautiful renditions as far as the guitar is concerned. So that was inspiring, and I was like, even if I suck right now, I'm gonna play a little bit every day. And essentially, this is a practice for me. And when anything is a practice, all you have to do is indulge in it, show up, put the work in, and you'll get better over time. So I was playing guitar every day, multiple times a day. And you multiply that, over a year or two, and you'll see some growth.
So you was progressing.
Yeah.
And was it time when you were frustrated?
Yeah, definitely. There's this thing that most guitarists are aware of. It's called bar chords, B-A-R-R-E chords. And long story short, it just takes a lot of hand strength to be able to perform those types of chords. So before you get the hand strength, you have a glass ceiling. You're kind of restricted. You can see that other music up there, but you can't, to perform a bar chord, you can't really approach it. So it was a frustrating time over the course of a couple of months, just trying to get to the point where I can not only form the bar chords, but I can play more fluidly. And once I broke through that glass ceiling, I was ecstatic. It opened up my playing in so many different ways.
So when you do you have to do some hand exercises or anything, or you just keep playing?
Yeah, playing in and of itself is an exercise for your hand. There are other things that you can do, like the little wrist grip thing, little things like that. But really just playing, repetition and indulging in your practice on a regular basis will, have you experience and growth no matter what you do.
Okay. Got you. So you said, how many songs, you got like an EP coming out, don't you?
Yeah. So I got some new music coming out finally. And I said in the beginning, I'm a performing and a recording artist. So primarily my career has been set up in a way where I've been thriving as a performing artist. But I've only released one piece of music so far when it comes to being a recording artist.
Recording True Love, right?
Exactly, True Love, my debut single. And recording is just a complicated, potentially expensive endeavor to undertake. So recording one record is one thing, but a multitude of records, recording content consistently over time, especially if it's of a certain caliber and professional, it's easier said than done depending on what your resources are. I'm an independent artist, so I'm not signed by anybody, which means that I'm investing in myself to make this happen. And it just took me a little bit more time than I expected it to for me to get my own recording machine, production machine together. But now I'm in a space where I can record a lot more seamlessly and I'm ready to put out content more consistently. So I'll be dropping a single from my debut EP next month, and I'll be dropping the full EP in June, or sometime in the summer at the latest.
So, just remind before we get done with the podcast is that, because I mean, people need to know how to get that information, whether it's social media or how they can contact you. So I'm gonna make sure we get that. And so you invested in yourself. So that means, because easily playing the guitar, you probably have people ask you, join my band.
Right, yeah, I have. And in those instances, it just wasn't something, it didn't feel right to me, so I decided not to. I've had people offer to manage me as well. Yeah. I turned down every offer to be managed. And I've had opportunities to collaborate with other artists, and in those moments I just didn't resonate with that opportunity. So primarily I've just been kind of focused on developing my own artistry and just figuring out what I can do for myself before I try to bring somebody else into something I'm still figuring out, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I'm hearing you got a lot of wisdom. Because you're still young, and first of all, somebody want to manage you, and they're probably not knocking them, but they probably promising you the world. Yeah. Just because, and they may have the contacts, they may have the ability to get you where, not necessarily where you want to be, but to get you where they think you should be.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes where people think where we should be is not where we ought to be.
Right.
Making sense? Yeah. Because that's wisdom to me, because everybody, you know, I got management now, and the first thing I'm like, man, well, you want to talk to the manager, you know what I'm saying? Like, make it seem like I'm important. And so I went through a lot of management, a lot of people this, people that, whatever. And some of it is I was more wanted to be about me, make me feel like I was important. But it seems like you on this, I want to say, self-discovery.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I see a lot of self-discovery where you are confident in yourself and knowing that it's gonna happen, but I wanna make sure that I'm in the right place as far as mentally, spiritually, physically, in order to do that.
You hit the nail on the head with that.
Because what advice can you give? Because we're gonna have artists looking at this. You never know, some kid, maybe, because it's not popular to play a guitar in the Midwest.
Right.
You the only one I know of young age. I mean, most times you see somebody playing a guitar, it's in church. But you're not gonna go to, because I remember one time you played, I think you was in Broad Ripple. I think I ended up meeting your mom, who was playing down there. We're talking about like 4 years ago, down in the basement part.
Oh yeah.
Remember that? And he was playing down there. And I've always been fascinated with you, because to me, it takes a lot of guts to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to go against what people think I should, because I know people probably have told you, bro, that ain't no, bro, come on. You can play at home, but bro, you ain't about to get no engagement. Nobody's gonna, or you can play background. You can play where you can be in the band, and you know, and then we may give you a little solo to do, you know, doing an interlude or whatever they call it, do whatever. But you decided, I'm gonna bet on myself, because that's what you're doing.
Yeah. You
bet on yourself. That's why you're a winner, because you decided, I'm gonna bet on myself. So, but we ain't even done. We talk about the music part. But man, it did another thing. This is what really, really fascinates me about you. You do yoga.
Yeah, a little yoga.
I mean, a little yoga. Man, I done seen you all over the book where I tried to do a couple of moves, man, and I got my hand straight, man, and I was like, yo, yeah! I thought I was saying, other things, but that was, so get into that, because you said you were also a teacher, and we're gonna talk about that. But you are a yoga instructor? So let me get this straight. Music, independent, you do all this full time.
Yeah, at this point. So You mentioned teaching, so I have a professional background in teaching and education, and I've been living in Indianapolis since 2015. That's when my teaching career began.
Okay.
And I've basically been teaching in various capacities at various schools since then. I started out as a substitute teacher for about a year, then I did assistant teaching, and I became a full-time teacher for about 3 years.
Wow.
So I gained a lot of experience when I was working in those sorts of positions. I gained a lot of insight with regards to what the nature of the school system is. I gained a lot of insight with regards to what my personal abilities and talents were when it comes to working with youth. And I basically just had the idea confirmed within me that I just really appreciate the opportunity to impact the youth. But I realized that I wasn't passionate about teaching. I wasn't passionate about being complicit in a system that I had grown disillusioned with, grown, quite frankly, to be very disappointed in its ability to provide the positive life outcomes. Not just graduating high school, but actually know how to navigate through life afterwards. And I just really feel that that's not actually what this school system, as it is presently set up. It's not the purpose of it. It's not the end that they're trying to reach. And I just realized that I wanted to do different sorts of work. Not that I didn't want to work with kids, but I wanted to work with kids in a different capacity. I wanted to be able to provide my services to my community in a way that I maintained ownership of, and that I just really resonated with. I loved being a teacher because I was good at it, but I hated sometimes the idea that we were just turning in circles. I'm teaching kids stuff that, first of all, some of these kids are years behind. We're still teaching them the same stuff, and then we're just gonna push them along, even though they're not ready. We're just gonna push them along, and push them along, and push them along, and then push them out into the world, and then they're not ready yet. And there are so many other things that the school system is complicit in and just kind of does that I just don't agree with.
Because I was in the school system.
Yeah, exactly. We all were.
And I'm talking about even a substitute teacher. I was going to school to be a teacher. But what I decided to do is I was going to do like some teacher's assistant like you. But what I found out, especially being a black male, to be real, you ain't just a teacher. You're the counselor. You're the security guard. You're the basketball coach. You're the football coach. You the security to the women. They call you down to go talk to. You gotta go talk to the Quran, and you become a crutch. And then, like you said, it becomes where we just want to push you out. We don't really care if you learn anything.
Yeah,
we don't really care. We just, because now you're not a human, you're numbers.
Exactly.
And so then we got to keep the funding coming in. So we're gonna pass you when you still don't even know.
Yeah.
And so that's an important thing. But so many people, going back to betting on yourself, so many people stay in that circle.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so thankful for music, because I was raised very traditionally to go to college and get a job. When I realized that what I was doing for work, I wasn't passionate about, I was blessed to have already been building another career on the side of that through art and music. So by the time I had become really disillusioned with teaching, I was already a seasoned performing artist.
Okay.
I had released a piece of music already, and I had started to just become more and more passionate about it. It's not just a side hustle, but an actual career path for myself. I didn't expect to be given the opportunity to dive in fully, but that's ultimately what happened to me this year. I became a full-time entrepreneur in January. So I basically began pursuing my art and my music career full-time. Also, last year, just before leaving the education system, I had finished getting my first yoga teacher's certification, training certification.
Wow.
And so, when I became a full-time entrepreneur, I had these two passions that I was kind of well positioned to be able to, indulge in. And I didn't really expect to be put in a position to have to jump all the way off the porch and dive all the way in, but ultimately, God is good, man. That's exactly what I needed, was that push to be able to have the opportunity to really, really put all of my effort, my money, my time, and my energy into myself, and this is what I really want to do with my life. And so when it comes to winning and growing to a point where you're winning, I have come to discover over the course of time through art and music what I'm truly passionate about and what I really want to do. And art and music was the first thing that showed me that it's possible. You do this not just as a hobby, but you can get paid for this. People who resonate, not only can you get paid for this, but you can change lives with this. I've had people cry with me after the show because something I wrote or said spoke to them that evening. And I never thought that me as a black man might be sharing a moment with a person, of European descent, and they're just so touched by something that I said. It's just a song, it's a 2-3 minute song. But a lot of people don't, we underestimate the power of art, we underestimate the power of music. So like I said in the beginning, for me, art and music is a practice of self-discovery. Being a human being is a practice of self-discovery. So many people are doing things that they really don't want to do in the world. It's a minority of us that have figured out how to do what we really love and what we really want to do. And have, and even a smaller amount that figured out how to sustain themselves by doing those things. So yeah, I'm in a space where I just feel blessed that I'm starting to figure it out, and through self-discovery, I do feel like I'm winning because maybe I turned down some jobs or maybe I'm not making exactly as much, but I'm on the right path and I'm doing what I love.
Man, because that word entrepreneur is like thrown around like everybody saying this is whatever. There's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur. Because see, entrepreneurs sacrifice everything that seems logical to do and say, I'm going to go against. That where you put your money, your time, you sacrifice because you see something greater than where you at. Now we're talking about you turning down a job. Now you're talking about depending on your talent. Strictly, like
exactly.
where you your own boss. Like a lot of children, we don't to look up to a person and say, he did it. He's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
He's continuing discovering who he is. And so when you look at it, man, I'm talking about tons of songs that you got into. Mm-hmm. And now you can teach. Do you teach children now, or can they?
Yeah.
Right. So now that you can teach them in a liberating atmosphere exactly. Where it's not based on the structure, because you've been in school and you probably want to say something to a kid as far as to help them and say, man, you really don't need to know that. Bro, let me tell you, that whatever you never gonna. This is the only time you gonna know this. Like you take it for a test, but you ain't gonna never. When you get older, you ain't gonna never, because that's what education even in America. We teaching them things that really we don't teach to be an entrepreneur. Why are we not teaching people to go out of their passion? Because that's what you did. You went after your passion, but even though you had passion, because there's a lot of people got passion, right? But they don't know how to will.
Yeah, understood.
Because passion, sometimes people get caught up in feelings. And when they get caught up in feelings, but think about it. You had setbacks. You was frustrated. Then you just educated me about the bar where you know that it's a certain level you gotta get to. Most people be like, most people be like, you know what? Let me go back to the familiarity. Let me go back to where I know every 2 weeks, I know I'm gonna get a check.
Exactly. And that's comfortable. And I can always appreciate when a person has achieved financial stability, and especially when it's a person of color, given everything that we have, before us. I just am always happy when any of my brothers and sisters have the ability to take care of themselves financially, because a lot of us don't have that. But I do feel that there's so much more to life than just getting by. And what is the real purpose of being here? I can promise you, it's not to make a whole lot of money. It's to discover your truth, to live your truth, to be able to speak your truth, and just to be able to enjoy life and do what you love. And so if you have a job and you have financial security, but you don't love your life, there's a disconnect there that you need to find out how to close the gap. I'm not saying quit your job, but figure out, how to close that gap is necessary. Because what's the point of having financial security if you're not happy? And every day you go home, you're unhappy, you complain about the job, you don't have time for your family, your loved ones, even for yourself. That's not a life really worth living. I don't think the money is worth it. So I'm in a space where, to be honest, I'm struggling a little bit financially, but I have come to discover what my truth is. And I'm figuring out and growing even more courageous in speaking that truth, standing deeply rooted and firmly on that truth. And I'm watching the universe get in line. I'm watching God make a way for my passions and my goals and my dreams. And art and music for me, like you said, it's not just I'm an entrepreneur, air quotes. This is a business. I have to figure out how to really make money and sustain myself as an entrepreneur. And so, I tell people I'm a performing and I'm a recording artist and I'm a teaching artist, and I think people just think it sounds good, but no, these are actual avenues which could be identified as streams of income. So, being a performing artist, I've been doing that for 5 years, and I have a thriving career when it comes to being a performing artist and making money from that. But I know that there is a lot of opportunity financially, and when it comes to connecting with more people in the realm of recording art. So when you record music, I don't have to physically be there to provide the service of performing for you and singing for you live. It's a product now. I can sell you my product and I don't even have to be there. That's another stream and avenue of income. So I've taken being a recording artist very seriously, which is why I'm excited about this music that's getting ready to come out. And it's not just because I want to connect with the people and I want to share this aspect of my authentic truth. It's about that. But make no mistake, it's about the revenue stream as well that will come from me being able to have not just a single, but a body of work that I can sell. And when it comes to being a teaching artist, I have this revelation that I love art and music so much. I would love to teach other people how to do it. Why am I holding myself back and not, opening up another stream of income within the realm of art and music? So I just started to teach other people how to play the guitar, how to read music, and how to sing and write songs as well. And that is a service-based aspect of my business where I'm providing the service of teaching you something. But this whole idea of products and services, even that, is something a lot of entrepreneurs don't really understand because they're not even really sure of what their identity is as a business entity and what products or services they're selling. But long story short, I'm just thankful that through this process, I have come to discover who I am. I've become so much more self-aware. I can tell you who I am as an artist, what I do, what I have to offer, and I can tell you what services I have to offer, what products I have to offer. And I just feel like I'm doing really meaningful work in the community. So I'm struggling, but I'm happy, and I see that God and the universe is really making a way for more business. I'm expanding, I'm networking, I'm growing over time. And I would rather have that, to be honest, than to still be teaching and not really be happy.
Really be happy. And I'm praying that God's opening up many doors for you. I would need your cash app and all that so we can put it on there.
Yeah.
I'm really believing people going to invest, because see, some people will invest in people with vision. You have vision. You was able to calculate and tell me everything that you do. Because you have some people, well, I'm just an artist. Well, what kind of artist? Well, I just, no. I had one gentleman I said, what do you do? He said, well, I'm an author. I said, okay, what books have you written? Well, I just write a little bit of everything. I'm like, so you don't have no book out, right? But you're an author, right? Because it didn't make sense to me. But I'm praying for this podcast, when people see this, that they're going to invest in me. But this is what I do now. The eyes are the window to the soul. I can't say, when I look in your eyes, I see peace. It's so many people today, they dread to go to work tomorrow. They already like, oh my God, I gotta get up and do this over and over again. But even though I'm believing against the struggling financially for you, I'm praying that you're struggling, but even in that, you do that. We touched on it a little bit, but we're gonna touch on it now. Yoga.
Right.
When did you start doing yoga?
So, I started doing yoga in 2018, and basically I had gotten to a point in my personal life where I just felt like I really needed to heal. And originally that looked like me taking some time away from some toxic familial relationships. You know how a lot of times you can feel obligated to be in contact with family or in proximity to family, but a lot of times it's not the healthiest space for you to be in. A lot of times family even doesn't necessarily have your best interests at heart. And so I had recognized that I had some toxic family oriented relationships, which I just needed to take some space away from. And nothing against them, I saw myself become something that I wasn't resonating with anymore. And so I wanted to take time away so I could work on myself. Then that led me to start to eat healthier. So I started dabbling into plant-based diets and vegan meals and things like that, which began in 2018. And then somewhere along the line, a couple of books that I read had mentioned yoga, so I just decided to start dabbling in that as well. And I just really resonated with all of these things, like protecting my energy, taking time away from something that I felt like it was toxic, eating healthier, and practicing yoga was starting to affect me in ways that made me feel better. I didn't have the terminology at the time, but now I know what I was doing this year. So slowly but surely. And so going back to how art and music is really practicing self-discovery, I think life in general is a practice of self-discovery. And a lot of times we go through a lot of things that we don't process through well or heal from. And then we don't even realize we need to until we're adults already. So you become 30, you get 25 and you realize you got, childhood trauma, that you got to heal from, and things that happened that didn't really sit well with you and that have affected you in this negative way. And now we're, reflecting this trauma, and acting out in ways that are just not really in alignment with who you are at your deepest, most authentic levels of being. So long story short, in 2018, I started healing, and that's what brought me to the practice of yoga. And I didn't expect to become so deeply immersed in it, but it became a spiritual practice for me, and it just really cleared my mind and made me feel better so consistently that I found myself returning to it even when I was kind of falling off of it. If I ever got into too dark of a space, I would go and practice yoga. After a while, I realized there's something special about this practice. Maybe I should start taking it more seriously. And it wasn't until 2020, which is last year, so 2 years of being a practitioner on my own, I became inspired to become a teacher.
Always teaching.
Yeah.
No matter what, that's who you are. You are a teacher. Yeah. You teaching us a lot today about your passion, persevering, and about just, you're amazing because everything you do, you try it first.
Right.
You try it first, and then you say, okay, I can do it. Let me teach somebody else how to do it. So now, are you an instructor somewhere? You do it at home, or do you do it at a place, or what do you do?
So I have my own classes that I'm offering every Saturday at 10 a.m. Via Zoom. And right now I'm basically in the process of auditioning with a few different yoga studios locally. So I'll be teaching out of the studio pretty soon as well. And so basically I will be between studios and just teaching my own practice via Zoom, sometimes in person as well. But what I'm in the process of doing, going back to just being a business owner, I recognize that there are sort of two different ways that you can establish relationships. You can establish relationships with individual clients, kind of on a one at a time sort of process, and usually going through your own network that's already established. But long story short, businesses that are already established, schools, community organizations, nonprofit organizations, yoga studios, art studios, these entities are already connected to a large portion of the community. So if you can connect with the entity, long story short, then you have access to more people to service. So I'm in the process as a business owner where I'm about 4 months in, and I just recognize a need and an opportunity to connect with not just individual people, but businesses and community organizations that can connect me with more people. And I'm going through that process and trying to establish those relationships, make myself visible, let them know my name is YADIN KOL. I do art and music and mental wellness. I could teach the constituents within your community how to play guitar and music, or I can come do yoga, mindfulness, and meditation practices with them. And I'm finding that a lot of businesses, schools, and community organizations really want these sorts of services to be offered to their community. So as I establish more of these relationships, my clientele goals will be reached and my financial goals will be reached, and I see a lot of promise in that.
So do yoga, you have music doing yoga?
Yeah, you can do it either way. I'm getting to the point where I recognize people would appreciate music.
So you're gonna be playing your own music while you're doing yoga?
I'm about to start doing
so you can be So, you know, I want to keep you doing yoga while you play the guitar. Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, that'd be dope. Where you got your own yoga class and they listen to your music, but then they ask, who is that? That's me. I need you. Then you can like buy. So when people doing their yoga, they can tap on and buy your music. And then, after you do that class too. Okay, you want to continue on, we're going to do Zoom, then they have their own music, they do, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? There's different, I get excited about man, bro, I know you, but I didn't know all this because when I met you at the greenhouse, that is you were different than that person. And not in a bad way. It's just that I see the maturity, I see the passion, but most of all, I see that you winning, because people win when they bet on themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
But you didn't want, especially being a black man, being who you are, it's so easy to follow suit. It's so easy to follow what everybody else wants. Because even with your Facebook, I'm following you on Facebook, you're positive on your Facebook. You're not sharing world star and all that, because you're still young.
Right.
But you offer people, because you'd be surprised, even though you may not get a lot of likes, you may not even comment, but I guarantee you, as soon as you start doing something, they'll be like, what's that? Why you ain't putting on yoga? Why you ain't putting on this music?
Right.
And so we're praying for success for the EP when it comes out in June. So this is what we're gonna do. We didn't talk a lot about everything now. So you see we got the mic.
Right.
The mic is here for a reason. I can't sing. I can't play the guitar. Hey, you might as well forget it. You ain't gonna get that out of me. So I want you to bless the people who are watching the podcast with one of your songs. And once we get done with that, we'll talk and we'll go from there.
All right.
Come on. Give them something good.
All right. This is Palm Trees, an unreleased record.
Drinks, desert sands, girl. I climbed mountains just to feel your breeze. Yeah, this ain't no mirage, let me feel you in my hands, girl. Show me your oasis of palm trees. Just let me see it, I think I've been asleep. Cause you walked up on me like a dream I wanna keep. Telling me your favorite girl is out of Vessel Beach. Now I'm listening to every single word you speak. Like Shawty be my peach, yeah. Shawty be my peach, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shawty be my peach, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shawty be my peach, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shawty be my peach. You came and gave me my last first kiss, girl. Now all I think about is the touch of your lips. We step out on the town, feel the beat coming through your hips, girl. I feel tipsy, but I ain't took one sip. Hope I don't slip, I think I can sleep. Cause you walked up on me like a dream I wanna keep. Telling me your favorite girl is out of Vessel Beach. Now I'm listening to every single word you speak. Like Shawty be my peach, yeah. Shawty be my peach, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shawty be my peach, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shawty be my peach, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shawty be my peach. Got you up on me like a Jonah. Telling me your favorite girl is out of Venice Beach. Now I'm listening to every single word you speak. Like Shawty be my beach, yeah. Shawty be my beach, yeah, 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 yeah. Shawty be my beach, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shawty be my beach, yeah, 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 yeah. Shawty be my beach.
Thank you. That was poetry.